Why does explaining yourself often make people respect you less instead of more? How can silence sometimes feel louder than words, making you look wiser and stronger than you thought possible? And what does an ancient plant like cannabis have to do with discovering your true inner power? These three questions may sound unrelated, but if you listen closely to the end of this video, you will see how they connect, and the answers may completely change the way you see yourself in the world. Many people don't realize that defending yourself can secretly weaken you. A Harvard study found that people who explain themselves too much are seen as 23% less powerful. A UCLA study revealed that when you defend yourself, your brain releases stress hormones like cortisol, which not only make you feel nervous, but also make you appear 40% less confident to others, even if you are telling the truth. This means that the very moment you try to protect your reputation, you may actually damage it. Think about the last time you argued back against a false accusation. Did the other person suddenly believe you? Or did they push harder, sensing your anxiety? Here's the surprising truth. Silence often speaks louder. Stanford research shows that holding silence for just 3.5 seconds after an accusation triggers what psychologists call the vacuum effect, where the other person begins to stumble, over-explain, or even backtrack. Ancient teachers like Machiavelli warned against defending, and spiritual traditions from Taoism to Rastafarianism saw silence as the mirror of strength. Modern science now proves the same. Cannabis, for example, quiets the noisy part of your brain that constantly worries about others' opinions, showing you that your value was never based on their approval. So if you've ever felt tired of defending, this video is your message. Stay with me until the end, and you'll understand why true power begins in silence. And before we start, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Your future self will thank you. When someone questions who you are, the first reaction is to explain yourself, but explaining often works against you. A large survey by Princeton University showed that people who defend themselves too quickly are judged as 30% less trustworthy, even when they tell the truth. It happens because the human brain links strong defense with hidden guilt. Think of a time when you heard someone insist over and over, "I didn't do it." Even if they were innocent, repeating it so much made them sound uncertain. This is why defending your worth by words alone rarely works. Silence, on the other hand, has a quiet power that can shift the entire room. Neuroscientists from MIT discovered that short pauses in conversations trigger the brain's social prediction system, causing others to reflect and sometimes doubt their own judgment. Leaders like Nelson Mandela often use silence to command respect without speaking much. People lean closer, not because he explained himself, but because his calm pause carried weight that words could not. In your daily life, holding stillness for a few seconds can create the same effect. Instead of rushing to prove yourself, that pause signals unshakable confidence. Cannabis, when used in mindful ways, can reveal this hidden truth. Modern studies show that cannabis reduces activity in the part of the brain tied to fear of judgment, called the amygdala. This quiets the noise of needing approval, making space for self-reflection and calm strength. For some people, this shift feels like stepping outside of the endless cycle of defending and proving. It becomes clear that other people's opinions are temporary waves, while your worth is the ocean itself, vast and untouched. History also shows that silence has long been linked to wisdom. Ancient Stoics taught that explaining yourself too much was like pouring water into sand, because the more you try to fill it, the more it disappears. Today, psychologists confirm this truth. People who stay calm and quiet after criticism are rated 42% more confident in group studies. This means your power doesn't rise when you explain. It rises when you stop needing to. Much of our suffering begins with the need to be accepted. From childhood, we are trained to seek approval. Teachers grade our work, parents compare us to others, and later, social media counts our worth in likes and comments. A global study by Pew Research showed that 72% of young adults admit they feel anxious when their posts receive little engagement. This addiction to validation creates a cycle where we constantly defend ourselves, hoping to be seen in a good light. But true freedom comes when you no longer build your value on the unstable ground of other people's opinions. Cannabis, when approached with awareness, can act as a gentle teacher in this journey of letting go. Research from University College London found that THC reduces activity in the part of the brain linked to social rejection, making the sting of criticism feel lighter. People often describe the effect as a soft detachment, where they no longer feel the need to argue or explain. It is not about escaping reality, but about seeing reality from a calmer place, where outside judgments lose their sharpness. Like a window opening in a crowded room, it brings in fresh air and perspective. Real-life stories show this clearly. One young artist, often criticized for not following a stable career path, used cannabis during her reflective evenings. Over time, she noticed she no longer rushed to defend her choices to family or friends. Instead, her calmness and quiet confidence began to change the way they looked at her. What once seemed like rebellion now appeared as clarity. This shift did not come from her words, but from her energy. She stopped explaining, and the world adjusted to her silence. Ancient traditions also taught this truth. In Zen practice, detachment is described as letting the mud settle so the water becomes clear. Modern psychology mirrors this idea, showing that people who detach from constant defense report 35% lower stress and stronger self-esteem. When you stop chasing approval, you return to yourself. You realize that your value is not in how well you defend it, but in how little it needs defense at all. There is a small space between action and reaction, and within that space lives your real strength. Most people rush to fill silence, believing quick answers make them seem smarter. Yet science says otherwise. Researchers at Columbia University found that people who pause for just 3 seconds before replying are rated as 38% more thoughtful and confident than those who respond immediately. This pause is not weakness. It is a doorway into wisdom. It allows you to rise above the pull of emotion and choose a response that comes from strength, not fear. History has given us powerful examples of this. During his trial, Socrates often waited before speaking, and his calm silence unsettled his accusers more than his words. In the 20th century, Martin Luther King Jr. was known to pause deliberately during his speeches, letting the silence stretch, and it made his words echo even deeper in the hearts of his listeners. These leaders showed that silence is not empty. It is full of energy that makes others lean in closer. In daily life, when someone criticizes you, a pause can break the cycle of defensiveness. Instead of rushing to prove yourself, your stillness becomes the answer. Cannabis, too, can guide us toward this pause. Neurological studies reveal that cannabis increases alpha brainwaves, the same waves linked to deep meditation and reflective thinking. In this state, reactions slow down and you begin to notice the gap between what is said to you and how you choose to respond. Many describe it as watching the moment in slow motion, where you see clearly that you do not need to fight every word thrown at you. This shift builds inner space, where silence is not scary, but comforting. Psychologists also note that people who master this pause are seen as 45% more respected in group dynamics because they no longer get trapped in small battles. Imagine someone accusing you unfairly. Instead of defending, you pause, breathe, and answer gently, "I hear you." That single moment of calm can make the other person question their own words. The power lies not in the noise you make, but in the quiet you hold. Life becomes heavy when you spend your days explaining yourself to people who have already decided not to understand you. Every defense, every long explanation is like giving away a piece of your energy. Psychologists at Stanford found that people who constantly justify their actions report 32% more fatigue and emotional burnout. When you stop defending, you stop bleeding energy, and what felt like a weight on your shoulders begins to lift. Your silence becomes your shield, and your energy stays with you, where it belongs. Think about the mountain. The mountain does not explain why it stands tall, why storms crash against it, or why winds circle around it. It simply remains unshaken, while time itself bends to its presence. In the same way, your worth is not up for debate. A study from the University of Michigan showed that people who stopped reacting defensively to criticism experienced a 40% increase in self-respect within 3 weeks. By no longer tying your value to the shifting opinions of others, you begin to see yourself as steady and untouchable, like that mountain. Cannabis can act as a mirror in this process. Research has shown that mindful use reduces obsessive thinking patterns by calming overactive brain networks. This creates a space where you realize you don't need to win arguments to feel whole. Many people describe a moment of clarity where they suddenly feel their life force as something solid, not something others can take away with a few words. This is the beginning of becoming untouchable. Stories remind us of this truth. One teacher, long judged for choosing a path of service over wealth, stopped explaining her reasons. Over time, her calm focus and inner peace silenced her critics more powerfully than words ever could. By refusing to play the game of defense, she reclaimed her strength. This is what happens when you stop chasing approval. The world eventually adjusts to your silence. True freedom is not about proving your worth, but about knowing you never had to. The truth is simple. You never needed to explain yourself to prove your worth. Every time you defended, you gave away energy that could have been used to build your dreams, heal your heart, or create something beautiful. A global study from the American Psychological Association showed that people who stop explaining themselves unnecessarily feel 37% lighter emotionally, as if they dropped a heavy bag they were carrying for years. The moment you let go of the urge to defend, you step into a freedom many never find. Silence is not emptiness, it is strength. It is the quiet space where people begin to see you, not as someone begging for approval, but as someone who already knows their value. History, science, and spirituality all agree. Silence builds power, defending drains it. Leaders, thinkers, and ordinary people who embrace this truth found peace, respect, and clarity. You can too. Cannabis is not the power itself. It is only a mirror that reflects what was always inside you. It calms the noise of fear and reveals the part of you that does not depend on others' opinions. That inner part has always been steady, like the ocean beneath the waves. Once you see it, you understand that no words, no judgments, and no criticism can touch your core. So take this message with you. Your life is not a courtroom, and you are not on trial. You do not need to explain why you exist, why you dream, or why you choose your own path. Stand like the mountain, shine like the star, and let silence become your power.